Hey, this is Dani. The channel is You and Me Living Free, and I'm just doing this little video. We'll see if it works or not, but I'm kind of one of these observational people, and I kind of notice things just like when I'm in different areas. One of the things I notice is that there are many places where I travel to, and not only does the city have a distinct feel or vibe, but the drivers in that state or in that area like have certain similarities. They have certain personality traits that kind of tend to repeat themselves, and I think it's just kind of funny. So I thought I would do a little 5-minute video on Texas drivers. This is not mean-spirited in any way. I want to say honestly, I can truly tell you that I believe most drivers out there are just good, safe, normal, regular drivers. That's most of us. But there are these outliers, and there are things that tend to happen more in some places than others. Like in Texas, I have not experienced a ton of super fast people who want to drive fast all the time. Like I'm looking at you, Phoenix, right? Like Atlanta just drives super fast all the time. People who want to ride your tail all the time. Looking back at you, Atlanta, Tennessee. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent already. Dani, I just started and I'm getting in a tangent. Okay, let me pull myself back. Texas drivers, they're not super overly fast in general, right? They're not super bad tailgaters. They're not mean-spirited in any way. Ohio, I'm looking at you. Tailgaters and seem to be a lot of mean-spirited, but I'm like, if I lived in Ohio, I might feel the same way. Just kidding. I'm sorry, Ohioans. It's been a long time since I drove through Ohio. It's been years ago, but it made such an impression on me. Anyway, there I go again. Dani, reel it back in. Okay, Texas drivers. So mostly very good. I've heard you don't want to drive down here in a lot of rain or in, snow or anything, because they don't have a lot of bad weather, so it's hard for them. They have bad judgment. Speaking of judgment, okay, let's start out with a softball one, and this is they run red lights. I would bet if you had a law of averages of people in every state and their driving tendencies, I would think Texans drive through the red light a little more often than the national average. Now, they do this also in Kansas City, so I'm kind of used to it. I've even had people come into Kansas City from other places and tell me the same thing about Kansas City. Texas seems every bit as bad as that. It's not quite as widespread like Kansas City, like so tons of people do it. In Texas, they do it more blatantly, but it's a fewer number of people. Okay, seriously, stick with me now. Okay, so they do tend to run, some tend to run red lights. Another thing I have only had happen to me in Texas, and it's happened a few times over the years, twice in this year since I've been traveling through, because I do some travel through Texas on almost every trip I do. But anyway, I'm in a 2-lane highway. The speed limit is maybe 65, like a state highway or whatever. The speed limit is 60 or 65. We're in 2 lanes going down. I was in the left lane, just passing someone like a normal pass. There was not a lot of traffic. It was not a high pressure situation. We're just cruising along. I'm going a little above the speed limit, not much. I was probably, if it was a 65, I might have been going 68, 69, but I don't speed that much anymore as I'm getting old. I really do try safety first. Anyway, so I'm just passing on the left, and I'm coming back around to get in front of this person. And as I look over and put on my signal, making sure there's enough room between him and me, there is someone who has come along at probably 90, 95, and came out of literally nowhere and is just now swerving in on the right to get in front of this person, which is the space I was going to occupy. So luckily, I'm turning around, I'm looking, making sure, and there he comes. Like, if I had done it a half a second earlier, I wouldn't have even seen him, but I was glancing and I happened to see just flying around on the right-hand side on the side of the road.
I think there's one reason I think people in Texas do this, and it's because the side of the highways are usually almost big enough for another lane, but it's still a very dangerous thing to do because you don't know what might be up there, and it's not guaranteed, and sometimes there can be rough spots or whatever. It's not a safe thing to do. And this guy was going like probably, I don't know how fast he was going. I may be exaggerating. Maybe he was going 80 and we were going 65, but he was going quite a bit faster. And so he flew around. And so I think that might be part of the reasons why people in Texas might do that. But overall, I don't see them as real aggressive drivers or anything. But yeah, that kind of freaks me out, and it's happened a couple times. And another thing that they do in Texas is tend to, in parking lots, people will like cut through the spaces a lot or turn around in the middle of the aisle a lot. I have noticed more of that in Texas or here at the beach than I ever have anywhere else, and it's always an issue. I used to be a marketing consultant, and I had a client who was a small business. I was just an independent person, and I did marketing consulting, and I had a guy who was a small business, and he had an auto repair, but it was they did body work. And he said if it weren't for Walmart parking lots, Sam's parking lots, and one other thing, Walmart parking lots, and gas station parking lots. If it weren't for those three things, they would be out of business because there's so many fender benders in these kind of parking lots. So just here at Walmart, while I was getting my stuff, like I'm walking in and someone almost backs into someone else, and you got three people trying to move at the same time, and one person's doing something really awkward, like trying to go the wrong way. And then I get to the end of the aisle and there's someone cutting through, like not even paying attention, right? I have noticed that they do that, and I am curious for people who are in Texas if this is something that you've noticed. Anyway, it's just kind of little funny observations. It's not like any big deal. Another thing about Texas, so many trucks. I was going to Google before I started the video, Texas and Oklahoma. If I had to wager on trucks per capita and how many people, what percentage of the population own trucks, I would think Texas and Oklahoma would be two of the biggest. Maybe Texas might even be number one. So many trucks, right? So many trucks. And that's neither good nor bad. That's just an observation. And also I've noticed, I have never heard so many woohoos as when I'm in Texas. I think sometimes, as a person from kind of the Midwest, maybe you think people don't actually go through life and go woohoo and stuff. But when they're on the beach and they're drinking, or they're like, cruising through somewhere or whatever, I have heard more like, woohoo! I have heard more of that here than I have ever heard in my whole life. Hey, this is Dani. So I am editing this video, and there were a couple of things I wanted to throw in before I do the conclusion. So I'm going to stop the other video here. I'm going to throw this in, and then I'm going to go back to my conclusion that I already recorded earlier. But I just had to say a couple more things about driving in Texas. Number one is there's another funny thing. There's all these billboards in Texas over the highways, and it says, booze, cruise, lose. In other words, don't drink and drive, right? So cool, right? It's catchy and I like it. It's great, right? Then the other thing is a lot of the gas stations here, especially Stripes, but I don't know if others do it too. I've ended up at a lot of Stripes stations when I'm down here in the Padre area, but a lot of them have these huge coolers, and I'll put a picture right here because I took a couple of pictures of one because I just thought, I kept seeing it and I thought it was hilarious. And actually what I didn't take a picture of too is right next to this little cooler, there's these beer bongs. Okay, I know it's Padre, but come on. Beer bongs, oh gosh, selling them at the gas station. Now, okay, of course, the gas station has alcohol, whatever, but they have these great big coolers by the checkout where you can get like 24-ounce beers, okay, and 24-ounce, of the hard seltzers and stuff. And it's such a contradiction to me that you have all these billboards that say booze, cruise, lose, or don't drink and drive. And then you go to get gas and you can grab just out of the ice. It's ice cold. You can grab an ice cold beer, and where do they think you're going to drink that? Probably as you're driving down the road. I mean, sure, maybe you put it in a cooler and take it to the beach, but I'm just saying, it's pretty contradictory. I think that's kind of wild. Another thing I want to say is I like being in Texas. I like it that it has a more laid back vibe. It has a lot of, there's a lot of humidity and stuff, but I've been spending most of my time on the coast, so I haven't had to really deal with it much because you got an ocean breeze going, so the humidity doesn't bother you. As soon as I come inland, I'm like, that's a little different story, but the coast is fantastic. But I have been enjoying Texas. I like the people. I like the low prices. Texas is very affordable. One of the things on the road is like, California is going to be expensive, and Oregon and Washington, you just know, right? And East Coast, is going to be expensive, but Texas is downright affordable. A lot of the places out west, like even Utah and northern Arizona and stuff, and even parts of New Mexico, are really expensive. Gas more than $1 higher than it is here. So I like having low prices, whether it's McDonald's or finding a hotel, which I did for tonight, which this is the only time in, I don't know, months and months that I've stayed in a hotel, but I had a ton of editing to do. And anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail. Geez, Dani. Anyway, I just wanted to say that about Texas. I'm loving my time in Texas. And I think that's it. Let's go back to the other video.
Interesting, because I am a people watcher, but this last year, I am transitioning from being more of a people watcher to more of like a nature watcher, more of a wave watcher, a sky watcher, a bird watcher, things like that. But especially when I'm traveling a lot, these things kind of jump out at me. And anyway, I just thought it was kind of fun for a video, so I thought I would throw it out here. We'll see if anybody likes it. And tell me about what your experience is. Tell me like maybe your favorite state to drive in, or really a terrible, where you think there's like, where are the worst drivers? I'd have to think about where are the worst drivers. I'd have to really think about that in my experience. I could kind of go through like generalizations on several of the places I've been and kind of talk about it. But anyway, like I said, 95% of drivers, in my opinion, almost anywhere you go, are decent, safe, follow the rules, kind of, doing the best thing they can. But you do have these certain outliers, and there are kind of personalities and stuff that I notice. Anyway, maybe I'm completely off base. Maybe I just have this limited little slice and view. And I'm not a huge fan of making generalities. We don't really do people a service when we generalize about people in one way or another. Like, people from Texas always do this, or always people from, women always do this, men always do this. Whatever it is. So that's not helpful, but this is just a humorous, lighthearted little thing that I have kind of noticed, an observation that I've noticed. So anyway, let's see if anybody likes it. Thanks for being here. I can't believe you made it to the end of this video. Thank you so much. I'm sending you a ton of love. Thanks to all my patrons on Patreon. You can be a part of my Patreon for as little as $3 a month. And we do have a little more fun over there. It allows for a little more one-on-one interaction. And also I do behind the scenes, and I'm in real time on Patreon, so they know exactly where I am. This you won't be seeing for a couple weeks, if that's important to anybody. Or like the kind of things where like, hey, if you're ever in this city, let me know. Well, on Patreon, you would kind of know where I'm going. On this, you might not have any idea. I might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks behind or whatever. Anyway, just a thought. Thank you for every single one of my patrons on Patreon. Thank you for being here. I'm sending you love, and I will catch you next time. Okay, bye-bye.